This is After the Fire, a series about history after the events. Each season follows the long relationship between two worlds. When Egypt and Ethiopia encountered each other most directly, it was often not along the Nile. It was across the Red Sea, a narrow stretch of water that functioned less as a boundary and more as a corridor. Long before empires tried to control it, the Red Sea carried merchants, sailors, diplomats, and ideas between Africa and Arabia, linking Egypt and Ethiopia in ways that rarely appear in formal histories. This was where unexpected encounters accumulated. If this speaks to you, stay with us, like, subscribe, and tell us what you think. Chapter 1. The Sea, that connected more than it divided. For much of antiquity, the Red Sea was easier to cross than the deserts that surrounded it. Egyptian ports along the Red Sea coast served as gateways to distant worlds. Expeditions launched from these harbours toward lands associated with Punt and beyond. The sea carried incense, ivory, gold, and people who knew how to navigate winds and reefs better than borders. Farther south, communities tied to the Ethiopian highlands and the Horn of Africa participated in the same maritime system. They did not approach the sea as an edge, but as an extension of inland networks. Highland products reached the coast. Coastal knowledge travelled inland. This created a shared maritime world that existed alongside, and sometimes independent of, Nile-based politics. Egypt and Ethiopia met here not as river powers, but as coastal participants in a wider system. Chapter 2. Aksum and the power of intermediaries. The kingdom of Aksum emerged as one of the clearest expressions of this Red Sea world. Centered in the Ethiopian highlands, Aksum controlled key routes linking Africa, Arabia, and the Mediterranean. It minted its own coins, conducted diplomacy with Rome and Persia, and adopted Christianity early, positioning itself within global religious currents. Aksum's power did not depend on controlling Egypt, nor did Egypt control Aksum. Instead, both were connected through trade, diplomacy, and a mutual recognition mediated by the sea. Egypt, under Roman and later Byzantine rule, interacted with Aksum as a partner rather than a subordinate. Envoys travelled, alliances shifted, interests overlapped without merging. These encounters were not inevitable. They were produced by intermediaries, merchants, sailors, translators, whose names rarely survive, but whose work shaped history. Chapter 3. Encounters that left few records. Much of what connected Egypt and Ethiopia across the Red Sea remains fragmentary. Written sources are uneven. Egyptian and Roman texts mention trade and diplomacy selectively. Ethiopian traditions preserve memory differently, emphasizing lineage, faith, and continuity over transactional detail. What we see instead are traces, coins found far from their origin, inscriptions in multiple languages, architectural styles that echo distant influences. These traces point to repeated contact without domination. Egypt and Ethiopia encountered each other often enough to matter, but not so forcefully that one erased the other. The Red Sea world allowed interaction without absorption. After the fire of empire, this maritime memory faded from prominence. Land borders hardened. Imperial narratives centered rivers and capitals. Yet the older Red Sea connections did not disappear entirely. They lingered beneath later histories, shaping trade, religion, and diplomacy long after the sea ceased to be a political center. Between Egypt and Ethiopia, some of the most important encounters happened when no one expected them, not along the Great River, but across the narrow sea. and it was there that two ancient worlds learned how to meet without merging. Stay with us, like, subscribe, and tell us what you think.